What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fancy Endgame. If you're joining us, jumping over from the baseball stream, then welcome back. So now we're going to do another mock draft on Sleeper, half PPR, 12 team. And guess what? You can draft with us right here, right now. And just click that link. And you can jump in there. If you haven't drafted with us before, try it out. It's a lot of fun. And if you have, then well, we already know who you're going to take. So we're going to do our best to make it difficult for you. All right. Let's see how quickly this fills. Amal is in there. Welcome, Amal. The coach is ready to fight me, Dan Campbell.
Coach Dan Campbell in there. It looks like we're full.
We're full. There you go. That's it. That's how quick it is now. Keith is ready to take advantage of the 11, seeing you there at 12. But let's start with Magic Carp at the 1-1.
All right, Magic Carp on the clock. No surprise, CMC.
Now, have you noticed, because I saw somebody said this on the timeline, I don't know if it's really true, because for me, I can't tell if there's like a little more football chatter going on these days, people talking about it, because to me, it's like, well, I don't know, I look at that stuff every day, but
right.
I don't know if it's hard for us to tell, but you feel like, here and there, OTAs and some news, you feel like interest is starting to pick up a little bit?
I think so. I think a little bit. I think June kind of feels like, because we had the draft, we had the free agency, and then we had the draft, and now it's like that little lull before like training camp really starts in July. So I feel like June is kind of the last little lull here, and then July we're off and running.
Yeah, it's like calm before the storm almost, but
yeah,
a little bit of chatter here. Okay, I'm just gonna take Jefferson as usual.
Yeah, Jefferson at the 6 is great. Great value right there.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain. And it's funny because this is not standard, right? This is half PPR, but somebody could say, "Oh, I want to take the running back because the half PPR that kind of got to nerfs the value of receivers a little bit, especially the ones who depend on the target volume." I feel like it does that almost more so with a guy like Breece Hall, because half of his value last year came from receptions. I mean, that's what it is. I know it's a different offense this year because they got an actual quarterback, but still, I'm going to take Jefferson every time if he's there at the 5 or the 6.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Okay, well, it's half PPR. Let's do it. Let's go double RB. Let's go double RB and see how this works from the turn.
All right. Gotta mix it up. And those are not bad RBs to take. Now you're set at running back for, I don't know, another few rounds?
Oh, at least I'll probably, I mean, unless like somebody falls very far, then I'm like, well, I got to take them. But yeah, now it is a 3 wide receiver league. So
the value is where it lies, because again, we're entering round 2. It's like, which receiver really belongs here at the top? And I still don't think I really know who I like the best. I mean, I know, okay, Harrison is going there early second. There's still another 2-3 receivers where I feel like, okay, I'm fine with any of them here. And then after that, I'm not really sure. All right, London is one. Olave is the other. And since Clayton got kicked out, I can actually take Brandon Ayuk.
There you go.
You're not going to see another Bills stack, Justin. That was like a one-time only. Like that, out of my system, it's done. Definitely not taking Josh Allen. Or maybe I'll just point blank not take any Buffalo Bill the rest of this offseason. That's not true. I'm going to take Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Okay, since we're on the subject, we actually had back-to-back Bills questions. Hasn't been drafted yet, but do you think that the new OC, okay, we had a Texans receiver, but not Diggs taken. Do you think that switching from Dorsey to Brady had an impact on Stefon Diggs? Do you think, I mean, I know the answer to this. I'm asking hypothetically so you can answer for the people, but do you think a first start revitalizes Stefon Diggs?
I feel like I've talked about Stefon Diggs so much this year already, and it's only June. Here, I have two arguments against Stefon Diggs. The number one argument is you have to really hope that he really just was like, screw this, I don't care anymore. I don't know if I'm ready to say that that's the case, but maybe it was. Maybe he's like, I'm a diva, I don't care anymore. The other issue here is, even if that is true, even if Diggs is still elite, even though last year, again, if you guys follow us, Matt Harmon, we talk about him all the time. Matt Harmon said even when Diggs was on the Vikings and he wasn't putting up, monster seasons, Matt Harmon was saying Stefon Diggs is a top 5 NFL wide receiver. He just needs to get into a better situation. And then when he went to Buffalo and he got into a better situation, he became a top 5 wide receiver. Matt Harmon looked at him last year and said, look, this guy, he doesn't have any vertical game anymore. He's still good on digs and curls and those kind of routes, but that vertical game is gone, which to me is okay, so he's lost a little bit of a step probably, or he just didn't care. Maybe he's like, oh, you want me to run deep? No, I'm not gonna try. Those are really your two options. I'm gonna go with he probably lost a little bit of a step. Not saying he's complete dust, but he's probably lost a little bit of step. But even if now he's extremely motivated, my whole argument has not been so much that I think Stefon Diggs, his days of being an elite wide receiver are over. It's more about the fact that he went from Josh Allen with nobody else, like Khalil Shakir, Gabe Davis. These guys shouldn't even be number 2 wide receivers. These guys are number 3 wide receivers. So he went from a situation with one of the best QBs in the game, who has a great arm, who's a great passer, and was the only real target they had, to now he's going to, yes, another great QB, I'll give you that, but they also have 2 other really, really, really good wide receivers. So even if you believe Stefon Diggs is still great, how is he going to be as good as he was in Buffalo just by virtue of the fact that he's competing with 2 other very good wide receivers, which he never had in Buffalo? He had barely average to below average wide receivers in Buffalo to compete with. So that's always been my thing. It's not so much about was he motivated, did he turn to dust? It's more about he's going to a situation where there's 2 other really, really good wide receivers. And I don't see how we see the Stefon Diggs of old unless somehow he's so good that they just ignore Nico Collins and Tank Dell, which I find hard to believe, but I mean, anything's possible. Or like last year, Tank gets hurt again, and maybe Nico gets hurt, and then all of a sudden, Stefon Diggs is the only guy again. So, yeah, that's always been my thing on Diggs. It hasn't been so much like he's dust or did he quit on the team last year. It's more like, even if you believe he's still good, his situation is significantly worse than it's been in the last 3 or 4 years.
Exactly. I'll just say this. It's to some extent, it's not even a matter of opinions. Do you think, it was because of this or that? Objectively, he wasn't as good last year. He lost 2 yards on his reception average, right? Yards per catch dropped by 2. His reception perception showed that he wasn't as good. Like you said, lost a little bit of a step maybe. And now he's got more competition for target, a lot more competition.
Yeah.
So whether you think CJ Stroud is as good a passer as Josh Allen or not, that doesn't even matter. It's just simple facts. He should not be as productive as he has been when he was an elite receiver. So not undraftable, but not worth a pick in the first. I think we're saying probably at least the first 4 rounds, maybe 5. I don't know.
Yeah, I keep saying my thing with the Texans because I have a hard time. I mean, this to me is like anybody who wants to sit here and say they know how it's going to play out or who's going to be the wide receiver one, like you really don't. None of us do. The best we can do is try to like say who we think it might be, because there's nothing that you can point to and say like, oh, it's going to be this guy for sure. It's going to be this guy for sure. So that's why I just keep saying I'm just going to take the one that goes last, and most of the time that is Tank Dell. So he's the one I end up with most of the time, and I'm thinking that's probably that we'll go with here.
I was gonna say he's still out there. He is the one who's going to last here, whether you take him or not. So he's available.
This is the problem with the RB start. These wide receivers are just okay.
Well, there's some good receivers, but I don't think any of these guys would be a number one receiver. So yeah, you're getting a couple of potential number two receivers there, top 20 guys, but not necessarily top 10. But you got 2 top 10 running backs.
Yeah.
But are you already regretting the double RB start?
It's just going to be quantity over quality at wide receiver, and then you just got to hope that like the guys hit.
There you go. See, this is the thing. A lot of people on the Tank train think he's the number one guy.
Well, that's goes back to my point here, and you can see it in the comments whenever we talk about these guys in the drafts, in the videos. You'll get comments like, Tank is going to be the number one there. Nico's clearly the guy there. Oh, Diggs is still elite. He'll be like, nobody knows. Nobody knows. And so, like, yeah, like again, if they like, just give me the one who falls the farthest. Just give me the one who, if I'm gonna take one, just give me the one who falls the farthest. And to be honest, I don't even love Tank, because name me an offense in recent memory that had 3 wide receivers. Now, don't throw out. I didn't say pass catchers. Don't throw out 2 wide receivers and a tight end, or whatever. Like, because that's different. Because tight ends don't need the volume that a wide receiver does to be good in fantasy, right? A tight end can score 8 touchdowns and have 60 catches and be elite in fantasy. So name me an offense. I don't even know the last offense where you can give me 3 wide receivers that were all worth picks within the top 5 rounds. I don't mean top 5 overall, top 5 rounds. Because that's where these guys are being drafted, right? Like the Chiefs wide receivers, who I guarantee you, I know for a fact, Patrick Mahomes is a phenomenal QB. I think CJ Stroud is a phenomenal QB. But we can't pretend like we haven't seen guys have a phenomenal rookie year and then take a step back in year 2. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it has happened. I feel pretty confident Patrick Mahomes is going to be very good this year. And his pass catchers are going to reap the rewards of Patrick Mahomes being very good this year. The Chiefs wide receivers go later than every single Texans wide receiver. Why? Like, you're telling me CJ Stroud can support 3 guys better than Patrick Mahomes can? Is that what we're saying here? Like, why? So again, it's just very hard for 3 wide receivers to all be good in fantasy on the same offense. And so again, I'm just going. Who did they? No, they had Emmanuel Sanders. They had Emmanuel Sanders. Obviously, Demaryius Thomas, but they didn't have a 3rd wide receiver, did they? Did they? Who was the 3rd wide receiver? I mean, yeah, they had Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. Those guys were great for sure. I mean, it helps when you have Peyton Manning, of course. But
Ed McCaffrey, or was that one much longer ago?
So their leading receivers were, Demaryius Thomas. Oh, actually, they did not have Emmanuel Sanders. They had Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, and Wes Welker. I would not argue that Wes Welker, while he ended up becoming good, only had 73 catches for 778 yards that year. Now, he did score 10 touchdowns, but that's because Peyton Manning threw 50 touchdowns. But he's still, I mean, 70,
You're talking about, okay, like at that time, the highest scoring passing offense of all time. Like, are we really saying Houston is going to have, like, CJ Stroud's throwing 50 plus touchdowns and they're going to be the best passing offense in the league? I mean, if you think that, okay, and draft all 3. But I think that's where we have to like pump the brakes and say, wait a minute, maybe we're getting a little too carried away with this whole Houston offense.
That's crazy. I mean, this shows you how good Peyton Manning was that year. They're tight. Julius Thomas, the tight end, had 12 touchdowns. They had 4 pass catchers with double-digit touchdowns. That's insane.
I remember that guy. And then he went to Jacksonville, right? He got a contract, and he did absolutely nothing, and he turned out to be a huge bust the rest of his career. But
well, I mean, yeah, it helps when you have Peyton Manning, for sure.
Exactly.
That's a good memory, though, Fantasy Sam. Good memory, though.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you've got to be a Broncos fan to pull those names out like that and to think of it. But yeah, I mean, true. You could have 3 fantasy viable receivers, but again, you're talking like Chris, you were saying, 3 guys being drafted in the first 4 or 5 rounds. That's not reasonable.
That's a big ask. And look, maybe one of them might end up pulling away from the rest. And then whoever was on that guy is going to say, "See, I told you." Right? I told you it was going to be I told you Diggs would bounce back, right? That's what people are going to say. But as we sit here today with no knowledge of anything, you can't really say with one, like if I said, "Okay, bet your house on who's going to be the number 1 wide receiver in Houston," how confident are you betting your house on that?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not. I mean, I know who I would say I feel is going to be the number 1 receiver, but it's not something I'm betting on. But I will say this: if I had to place a bet on that situation in general, probably my most confident bet would be that Stefon Diggs won't be the number 1 receiver. That's what I would say.
All right, there we go. JR says he won't bet his house, but he'll put up 1 Bitcoin. But isn't a Bitcoin worth? How much is a Bitcoin worth? I mean, that's still a pretty good chunk of change. What's Bitcoin worth these days? I don't even know.
Zero clue.
Bitcoin. That's still $71,000. That's a pretty sizable bet. That's a pretty confident bet. Yeah, 1 Bitcoin is $71,000.
What?
Yeah.
How much did they cost? Something like I should have invested in, and I would have been rich.
Yeah. Oh man, I have terrible Bitcoin regrets because, that's my background, right? Computer programming, web programming. I was very deep into the internet, and I remember when Bitcoin first started, it was meant to be, well, it still is, I guess, untraceable currency, and it was mostly used for people on the black market to buy like illegal stuff. And so I was like, I don't buy illegal stuff. I mean, at least nothing that illegal, I guess. I'm sure I've bought something that's considered illegal, but not illegal enough to be on the black market. And I remember thinking, like, why would I give you my real American dollars for your fake little internet coin? You know what I mean? Like, that's stupid. Yeah, well.
Yeah, well. If it grows in value and you get real money from it, then yeah. But yeah, I know. I just didn't want to think about any of that.
Well, back then it wasn't like it is today. It wasn't all like it is today. There wasn't this cryptocurrency thing. It was just this, like, literally you gave somebody, I don't know who they were, your real American dollars, and they gave you Bitcoin, and you could buy this stuff. And it's like, why wouldn't I have money? Why wouldn't I just use my money to buy stuff? Of course, I didn't foresee that one day Bitcoin would be worth $71,000. Oh well.
No, I definitely can say I never saw that coming, and I still didn't know that until you just told me. So, or until JRR tokens did tell me.
Oh,
interesting. All right, we've learned a lot today, but we're still not even half done. Let's. I did notice this, by the way, Mahal. Yeah, you got sniped on Kincaid. No love in the draft room. No one's going to let him fall. I do regret now. I took McBride because I thought, oh, tight ends are not being drafted early, and I could have had Kincaid a whole round later. So, oh well. Didn't see the quarterback run coming.
I don't think you can ever be upset drafting McBride, though.
No, I'm not upset with it, but just like I would have rather had tight end a whole round later, but that's okay. I didn't love anybody at that spot, anyways. So let's put this up. You got a while before your next pick. Where is it? JSC. Saying he'd rather have a Packers receiver than a Bear receiver. Now, the Bears also have 3 receivers getting drafted early-ish. Of course, not as early as the Texans receivers, but pretty early. You did take Keenan Allen, who I would have taken if he was available here. But what do you think about that overall? Packers over Bears because of the value.
I get it. I do think I still have trouble drafting DJ Moore. Like, I know he was great last year, and we were hyping him up. But I mean, again, talked about it. It's again, unless Peyton Manning, prime Peyton Manning or prime Mahomes or somebody like that, or even prime Brady maybe, is walking through those doors. Very hard to support 3 wide receivers like that. So I get it. And now we're talking about a rookie QB, and even though it is Caleb Williams and he's just can't miss. We've seen can't misses miss before. Hello, Trevor Lawrence. Hi, talking to you. So, and even guys like, and even Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck were awful year one. They were awful year one. So yeah, to support DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Robo Dunze certainly feels like a stretch this year. The only I really don't take Keenan Allen very much, but as my wide receiver 3 in round 5, really at the 5-6 turn, I felt like that was good value, so I took him there. But yeah, I'm with you on this. I'm pretty much mostly avoiding Bears wide receivers also, but I'll say I'm kind of avoiding Packers wide receivers too. Like, I feel like Jaden Reed is a little too hyped up, and we like Jaden Reed, and we talked last year to Matt Harmon about Jaden Reed, and he was one of the guys. He said, "Hey, as one of the prospects, I really like him. I think he's really going undervalued," and we saw that. But again, I mean, we're talking about an offense. I like Dontavian Wicks. We know what Christian Watson can do if he can stay on the field. Dobbs is gonna get 700 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns. Like, it's going to be Luke Musgrave looked good last year. Like, the ball's going to get spread out. So, yeah, I even feel like Jaden Reed is even being a little overdrafted right now, personally.
Oh yeah, I agree. I actually don't think I think he put this out there before you even took Allen, so I don't think it was directed towards your pick or anything. And Odunze just went off the board here, 7-1. I don't think that's too early for him. I mean, he's a talented guy. Keenan Allen, not guaranteed to play a full 17 games, but Jaden Reed, I think, I'm not getting overhyped to the point where I almost don't want to draft him at all, because I know I could have Wicks several rounds later, not like 2 or 3, like several rounds later. But I'm also much bigger now on Luke Musgrave because I liked him anyways. I like the value at tight end, and also Tucker Kraft, the other rookie tight end backup. He just tore his pectoral muscle and could be out a while, I have a feeling. So Musgrave, I think, is the biggest value out there for the Packers. But I'm not down on the Bears. I mean, this means basically you're just not sold on Caleb Williams, I think. You're out on the Bears.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm not completely out on the Bears, and I'm certainly not out on Caleb Williams. But we would need Caleb Williams to have a CJ Stroud type of year, which he could certainly do, and not a Trevor Lawrence type of year. Or even I mean, I don't know if people remember, Andrew Luck rookie year. Remember, Andrew Luck was like this can't miss prospect rookie year. I mean, yeah, he threw for 4,300 yards. That's great, but only 23 touchdowns, 18 interceptions. That's not gonna support 3, fantasy wide receivers. And then Peyton Manning, his rookie year, only threw for 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns, 28 interceptions. So I'm not saying that's what Caleb Williams is going to do, but I'm saying that we've seen plenty of can't miss QB prospects struggle year one because it's a very tough position. So I will say
Sure.
Caleb Williams has obviously has these great wide receivers around him. He's set up to succeed, no doubt about it. So, but again, asking any offense to support 3 fantasy wide receivers is tough. Although at least with the Bears, like you got Keenan going a little later and Odunze going much later, so it seems a little more feasible.
Right. That's exactly right. And I think for the most part, as far as Green Bay, people are more realistic, which is why you're not seeing those guys go super early. Except Reed, it's not like anybody's counting him to be a number 1 receiver, but it's still a little too early based on how many options they have. I'm starting to come around to seeing somebody else who, well, still hasn't been taken, but maybe I'll talk about him in a second. I almost took him this round, but I'm starting to see value elsewhere. Musgrave is my favorite value in Green Bay, and I have taken a lot of Dontavian Wicks on underdog for best ball purposes. Yep. I think this is one of those offenses that's much more appealing in best ball, just in general. All right, and now you're up for 2.
All right, I think. I mean, I'm really surprised. I mean, again, you look at, because I'm about to take a chief wide receiver and just going back to what we said, Rashee Rice went 6.8, Hollywood Brown 7.3, Xavier Worthy 7.1. So we feel better about the wide receivers attached to CJ Stroud than we do the wide receivers attached to Patrick Mahomes. Like, it doesn't make it make sense. Make it make sense, Pierre. Make it make sense.
Well, I'll say this. As far as Worthy versus Odunze, obviously one gets Mahomes, the other gets a rookie quarterback. But I think we definitely feel better about Odunze as a prospect, right?
Yeah.
Now, as far as the others, Rice, we know why his ADP is down. But I don't understand why Hollywood, who is playing aside next to a rookie, right, who could just want to being like a deep threat only. Not saying he will, but it's possible. That's just how he's using this offense. And a guy who might be suspended for a few games. I don't know why Hollywood's still going so low.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how are there 3 Texans wide receivers usually going in the top 3 or 4 rounds? But all 3 Chiefs wide receivers go outside round 5.
I don't know. Now, I guess one difference is the Chiefs still have a tight end who's, kind of a target hog, who's, one of the better, probably their best receiver still, and the Texans don't. But I'm taking Hollywood right now, probably before Diggs in fantasy drafts.
And then Ronnie's saying it's because we never know who the wide receiver 1 is in KC is, and it ends up being one wide receiver in Kelsey. And that's okay. You're right about Kelsey. I do have my reservations about Kelsey. We'll see how he is this year. But who's the wide receiver 1 in Houston? Because remember, like, if you earlier in the year when both Nico and Tank Dell were on the field, there were some weeks where Nico was good and some weeks where Tank was good. Nico didn't start just like dominating week after week until Tank fractured his leg, and then it was all Nico basically. So now you throw Diggs in there. Again, I go back to who is going to be the wide receiver 1 in Houston. So if we're not confident who the wide receiver 1 is going to be in Houston, but we're confident enough to take them all in the top 3 to 4 rounds, yet somebody's going to probably be the wide receiver 1 in KC, or it's going to be the ball's going to be spread out, probably like it will be in Houston. Then why are all 3 Chiefs wide receivers going so much later? You know what I really think it is? This is what I really think it is. Recency bias. We just saw CJ Stroud be unbelievable. We just saw Nico Collins be unbelievable. We just saw Tank Dell be unbelievable for what little time he was on the field. People still, like, other than the second half of last year, Stefon Diggs has been unbelievable for all these years. Rashee Rice was okay last year, but now he's facing suspension. Hollywood Brown has kind of been disappointing. Xavier Worthy's a rookie. Mahomes had a down year by Mahomes standards. That's what I really think it is. That's what I really think it is.
That's usually what it is, right? The recency bias always wins. Yeah, Mahomes, like you said, by his standards and the Chiefs' standards, the whole offense was a little disappointing. That's why they went out and got Hollywood and drafted Xavier Worthy in the first round. That's the whole point. Is now they're like, hey, we probably need to finally do something to help him out and get some good receivers. They did that. So, yeah, I know it's frustrating, but here's what we always say too: isn't it worth taking that shot? Isn't it worth, because you want that upside? That's what we're looking for, is the upside.
Right. Yep.
Ooh, now here's
what about this? Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
I think you're hot take here. Tank Dell, the new Will Fuller. I don't think that's meant as a compliment. That can't be a compliment.
No, it can't be a compliment. Well, I mean, it would be, if he keeps getting hurt and missing games, it could be. But like that injury, I mean, you can only really blame the Texans for that injury. Like, why are you having Tank Dell blocking on the goal line? Like, what are you doing? Like, Tank Dell is 100. Like, why are you having Tank Dell blocking on the goal line in the middle of the pile? Like, what? Tank Dell? Really? Tank Dell? Like, what? You got to blame the Texans for that. So I'm going to give Tank Dell a pass on that one. But if he starts, he could be going that route. But I feel like that was just terrible. Like, whoever came up with that personnel grouping on that play, like, that should have just been a fireable offense right there. Like, who's like, hey, who else would come up with that play? Arthur Smith. Hey, I got this goal line package, and we're going to put our smallest wide receiver in there to block on the goal line. The other team's not going to know what's happening. They're going to be so confused.
Yeah, they'll definitely be confused. That's for sure. We were all confused after that. Yeah, there you go. Keith sticking up for Tank.
What about this dynasty? I thought this is a strange question to me from John Smith. He's got Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison just chilling on his bench in dynasty. Like, you can't start them. Like, you're just like, hey, I got Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray just sitting on my bench. Like, you can't start them.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's a 1 QB league, right, not super flex, I can see having Kyler on your bench if you already had a good quarterback. So, I'm gonna be doing a lot of speculating here. I'm gonna assume if Kyler Murray's on your bench, it definitely is a 1 quarterback league, and your quarterback is better. But then I ask, do you think having a quarterback like that in Dynasty, do you trade him or do you hold him? Because you never know when he becomes your starting quarterback and you regret only having 1 good quarterback in Dynasty, because there don't seem to be as many really good franchise quarterbacks available anymore. Like in the past, I would say trade him and get something back. But now I'm like, okay, what if you trade him and then your quarterback goes down and then you're left staring at Bo Nix or Sam Darnold? It's like, maybe you should just keep him.
Yeah, that's true. I would. That would be my first question. Is like, okay, who are all your QBs? Like, if you got Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, and CJ Stroud, then okay, maybe in that case you can trade Kyler Murray. Okay, did we just get back-to-back QB autos? I'm gonna change that. I'm just gonna give him. Does he have a tight end?
Yes.
Yeah, Kittle. I'm just gonna give him. He can have Nick Chubb instead.
Okay, there you go. That's fitting.
I guess do I like any of these running backs?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know you're gonna take the running backs in my queue.
I'm wondering if I go tight end here, but I don't think there's any tight end that jumps out like as a must draft right now. I know some people are gonna say Bowers. Maybe I should. I'm not super high on Eckler, but I feel like at this spot it might be worth it.
Yeah, why not?
He's obviously not in your queue. You said that really quick.
Well, I already have Brian Robinson, so I'm not going to get Eckler also.
I'll just go with Brock Bowers as my tight end. I haven't gotten Brock Bowers once this year.
Yeah, I like maybe Marvin Harrison is technically on your bench because your rookie draft just puts your rookies on as bench players. Obviously, he's a starter for you, so I mean, I don't know what would you get that would be an upgrade for Marvin Harrison in Dynasty.
Well, I guess my question would be, if you had the 101 and it's a 1 QB league, which I assume it is, and it was, why didn't you, if Marvin Harrison was just going to be sitting on your bench, why didn't you just try to trade the 101 for a haul?
Good question.
But I don't. But again, why do you want to trade? All right. Keith is saying he wanted Ford instead of Chuba. There you go, Keith. There you go, Keith. Why do you want to trade Marvin Harrison? I mean, why not just trade? Why not just trade one of your vet wide receivers?
Well, that's what I'm saying in Dynasty. I want to trade Marvin Harrison. What are you getting that is an upgrade over Marvin Harrison Jr., the number one receiver prospects? Like maybe someone will give you CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jefferson straight up. Like, okay, maybe, but otherwise, yeah, exactly. What's the point?
Yeah. Like if you want to trade Kyler because it's a 1 QB league and you already have like 2 other really good QBs, which you might. I mean, if you got Marvin Harrison sitting on your bench, you must have a stacked team. Which then my question would be, if your team is so stacked, how did you have the 101?
Yeah. There must have been some trade or something. I don't know. It's kind of odd.
Yeah. You got to elaborate further on that one. But I don't even know if he's still here because he hasn't responded once. So I don't know if he's even still watching. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, that one confuses me.
What about this one from Clayton? 2.5 PPR for tight end. So tight end premium on steroids and 6-point passing touchdown. You want Justin Herbert and Isaiah Likely, or a 2026 first, a 2027 first, a 2027 third, Gardner Minshew, and Javon Baker.
This looks like a modified version of what he put out in the Discord, which would involve like 10 players and 5 picks. And I was like, no, don't do it. I have to say, you must just hate this 2.5 PPR for tight ends. Like this is trying so hard to force tight ends to matter. It's like
yes, exactly. I will make tight ends matter.
Yeah, like every catch is like a touchdown, 6 points,
right?
The problem is you're getting a guy who's not even a starting tight end and can give you 0 on a regular basis if Mark Andrews is healthy. That's the thing. It's the scoring system is influencing you too much here if you're looking at it. In Superflex, sure, Herbert great in Superflex, but also not going to be as great this year. And I think that's too much stuff. I know it's like, distant future, 2027 picks, whatever, but 3 years from now, are you going to wish you had multiple first-round picks, or are you still going, I have Justin Herbert? Like, it's okay. Like, is Justin Herbert going to have led to you to like consecutive championships at this time? That's my question.
Yeah, you're on the clock, by the way. I don't even know how to. I mean, Minshew, like, whatever. Like that doesn't even count. I mean, a 2027. Like, I barely care about thirds this year, let alone 3 years from now. A 2027 first, 2026 first. But I mean, Herbert and Likely.
Unless I'm reading it wrong, is this 3 first-round picks? No, 2 first-round picks. Okay, the third, whatever. But 2 first-round picks Minshew, whatever. Baker, I mean,
Man,
I
I
don't
do
know.
like
So
Baker.
basically, it's just like, okay, Justin Herbert for a pair of first-round picks.
I mean, I would definitely give up Justin Herbert for a pair of first-round picks, but I don't know if I'd give a 26 and a 27. I mean, that's so far in the future. So far in the future. I don't know. I'd probably just stick with Herbert here in Superflex just because those first. If one of those if the 2027 was a 2025, I might do this deal. I might do it. But a 2027 first? I mean, what the heck? Am I even going to be alive in 2027? I don't know. Like, like, dude.
It does seem like the distant future. I'm with you on that. But man, I don't know. I mean, if you love Justin Herbert, okay. I want to say, if I remember, Clayton, he was going to get the Herbert side, but this also is different. Yeah, I don't know. This feels like a trap.
And by the way, going back to that 2.5 PPR, I just looked. So Evan Ingram, the most underrated tight end on the planet, had 114 catches last year. That means just if you ignore yards and touchdowns, he got you 285 fantasy points just from catching the football. Just from catching it. Not even getting a yard, like just from the catches. He had 900, so he had 96.3, plus he had 405 fantasy points in this league last year. That is ridiculous. Evan Ingram better than Christian McCaffrey in this league.
That's
absurd.
Not right.
That's just not right.
I mean, if it was Evan Ingram, sure, then I would take it. But again, you're talking about Isaiah Likely, who basically only plays when Andrews is hurt.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like, what do you like? Okay, I know it's 2.5 PPR, but Isaiah Likely only had 30 catches last year, and that's because he got to play with Mark Andrews hurt. Like, okay, what do you really get Isaiah Likely?
Take some chances here.
All right, how do we feel? I feel like we get this question more and more over the years. We used to never get this, but how do we feel? How do you feel about third round reversal? And do you want to explain what it is for people who might not know?
Oh, well, I mean, it's just what it sounds like. It means, look, because there is definitely an advantage, and it's been proven there is getting the early pick, especially in football, like far fewer stud players. So, typically draft snake, right? First round, then in the second round goes reverse, opposite order to balance things out. But since the first round pick might be so much more of an advantage, having the 1 and the 24 as opposed to like the 12 and the 13. Third round reverses, which means, again, the team that picked last, 12th, let's assume it's a 12-team league, would again pick first in the third round. So that means if you pick first, you got the 1.1. That means you're also picking last in round 2 and 3.
No, I think it's just round 3.
Right?
I think it's just round 3. So you get the first pick, and then you get the last pick of round 2, and then it reverses, and now you have the last pick of round 3. So whoever had the first pick in round 2 gets the
Yeah, so it's round 2 and 3. Instead of snaking again, it's round 2 and 3 are the same, basically, the same order. How do I feel about it? I think it's okay for a deep enough league. I think it would have to at least be a 12-team league, if not deeper. And I think it's probably more viable in a super flex league.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think it's more viable in a super flex league because the issue with super flex is if you're picking at the term, like where I'm picking today, you either have to make the choice, like, okay, I'm going to take a not so great QB, Because in a lot, if you've ever done a Superflex redraft league, especially in like your more casual leagues, for lack of a better term, QBs, like you will sometimes have 9 or 10 QBs go in the first round. So when you are picking at the turn, you either have to say like, okay, I'm going to take a QB who's like the QB 11 or the QB whatever, or you have to make the choice that I'm going to take 2 stud players here. Like maybe you can get like, Christian McCaffrey and Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill and Jamar Chase or something like that to start your draft, right? Because all the QBs have been taken. But then you run the risk that when it comes back to you at the end of round 3, you're staring at like, Baker Mayfield as your starting QB, as your QB1. So I definitely think it's more viable in a super flex league. I think in a redraft like this, I mean, I don't know. I think I would just prefer the snake. I think if you want to try to do something more fair, auction to me is the most fair, but you also have to have like 4 to 5 hours to invest in a draft, and not a lot of people have that.
Yeah. I mean, auction is where you truly build your team, and the strategy is totally different. But yeah, most people aren't doing that. It's definitely a time investment, and it's a different way of thinking, but it is the most fair. Yeah, but if you happen to be in a deeper, like a 14 to 16 team league or something like that, then yeah, I think it definitely makes a bigger difference. And third round reversal is probably a better idea than the snake.
All right, last 2 picks. Do I need any of these wide receivers?
Keith taking the Jermaine Burton pick there. Man, I thought I might get him in the last round. Apparently not.
This is a lot of thought spent on the last pick in a mock draft.
Hey, trying to simulate the real thing here. It includes all the stress and the pressure.
Yeah.
All right, well that seals it for me. The last couple of running backs I considered taking are gone. It's bad when you just scroll down one page and you're getting like Kerryon Johnson and Peyton Barber.
Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah, remember that guy?
I do. Man, people are still waiting for the Kerryon Johnson breakout.
That's right. You remember when Detroit Lions running backs were just cursed? Like no matter how talented they were, no matter how good they looked in college, just you're a Detroit Lions running back ever since the day that Barry Sanders retired, like you were a bust. You were cursed. But that has been broken now. Actually, you know what? We did get a question. I want to go back to it. I was meant to save it for later, but where is it? Something about QJ. And the short answer is no thanks. JSC. Team Lad in the middle rounds or QJ in the later rounds?
Big time team Lad. Big time.
Yeah. Quinn Johnson did get drafted, but that was, I think, an auto pick. So I don't know if that really counts. All right. Let's go over the actual picks here in this team 1, starting with Magic Carp. Let's see. He managed to evolve this team into a champion. CMC at the 1. Mike Evans and Jalen Waddle. Kelsey, Mixon, Swift, Odunze, Brian Thomas, Javonte Williams, Shakir, Dotson, Tua, Jalen Wright, and Odell Beckham. Nice. 3 consecutive Dolphins to end the draft.
Wow.
And Waddle.
Yeah, I think overall it's pretty solid. CMC, Mixon, Swift, that's nice. Even Javonte, that's nice. Evans, Waddle, Odunze, Brian Thomas. I mean, certainly your wide receiver 3 runs a lot of risk. The Odunze, Brian Thomas, couple of rookies, Shakir, Dotson, Beckham. You got Kelsey, you got Tua, and you stacked them with 2 other Dolphins. So it feels good. Like, it feels like a good team to me. I don't know. It doesn't quite scream like crazy upside to me, but it still feels like a very good team. Very good draft.
Yes, and so there we go. There's a method behind the madness. Fins up. So
there you go.
Sentimental reasoning aside, yeah, I think it's solid. You know, Mix in general, not my favorite, but I, find where you got him in. You have Swift, so yeah, I think overall good values. I would just say I don't love taking Brian Thomas right after Odunze. I think I would prefer Ridley, Watson, and any of those guys. Those were taken before or anybody else. But overall, I think it's solid. Yeah, that's very solid. And then let's go to Ronnie. Let's see. CeeDee Lamb and Nico Achan. Stroud, Andrews, Zamir White, Godwin, Keon Coleman, Devin Singletary, Corum, Troy Franklin, Dontavian Wicks, Jaleel McLaughlin, and then Wilson of Pittsburgh.
I mean, he's got a lot of names I like on here. Again, I'm not going Nico this early, but if he's your guy, go for it. I think Achan in the 3rd is where he should be. Stroud fine there. Andrews good value. I don't know if you needed to take Zamir that early, but I mean, if we flip Zamir and Godwin, then it probably feels fine, right? Like if you had taken Godwin in the 6th and Zamir in the 7th. So, and if you didn't take Zamir with one of those 2 picks, no guarantee he would have made it back to you. So you got Lamb, Nico, and Godwin as your wide receivers. Achan, Zamir as your running backs. Stroud and Andrews as your tight end. That's a great starting lineup. Coleman, Singletary, Corum, Franklin, Wicks. Not really on Jaleel or Roman Wilson, but I think they're fine. So, yeah, overall, I think this is a very, very good team.
Yeah, I like this team a lot. Like you said, a lot of names I like. Got Stroud and Nico Stack there. Achan and White, two guys I like. Yeah, I don't love every pick. Of course, talking about the Coleman pick, but overall, pretty good. And then we have Push Enterprise at the 3. Another Dolphin here, Tyreek Hill. Jacobs at the 210. I didn't even register, I guess, at the time. I didn't notice that. I think that's the earliest we've seen Josh Jacobs go.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
All right. Laporta, about right. Lamar, Kenneth Walker. Then we got Addison, Hollywood, Ridley, A.D. Mitchell, Mike Williams, Charbonnet, J.K. Dobbins, Algier, and Komet.
All right. Look, I like Jacobs still. I don't know if I would take him quite that early, but I still like Jacobs. You got Laporta Jackson, you got Tyreek Hill, Kenneth Walker. So now your wide receivers, Addison, Hollywood, Ridley, Mitchell, Williams. I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill is great. Your wide receiver 2, probably Hollywood. Your wide receiver 3, Addison, Ridley, Mitchell, Mike Williams. I mean, I guess it's okay. I think I would have liked it better if you'd gone with a more upside wide receiver over Walker and just waited a little bit for another running back. Again, this feels like another team where, I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill has a ton of upside and so does Lamar. And I guess Laporta has upside by tight end standards. This just feels like a solid, not exciting team to me.
Well, I'll say this. Got the potentially, again, number 1 tight end and one of the top quarterbacks got Ty Hill. I think Walker in round 5 is actually one of my picks I like better on this team. The receivers are solid. I actually don't mind since you did go QB and tight end early, but I pretty much hate every other running back pick other than the Walker pick. I don't even like Jacobs in round 4, much less round 2. And then taking Charbonnet just to handcuff Walker when you needed more upside, and then you just don't need to draft Dobbins or Algier. So, yeah, I don't like this running back room. But, I mean, you're going to really need Jacobs to be an absolute stud. Maybe that'll happen, but who knows. And then team 4 is Aiden Lee. We've got Bijan, Henry, and Etienne. Real quick, how do you feel about robust RB? Is that what we call it these days, or bully RB? I don't know.
Yeah, this is a strategy I really only want to use in non-PPR leagues. So if you're in like a complete non-PPR league, yeah, give me the bully running back strategy. I think after Derrick Henry, I am passing on Travis Etienne, because again, this is, even though it is, it's not full PPR, it's still half PPR, and it's also a 3 wide receiver league. So, I was nervous enough going RB. That would terrify me. So let's see how he did here. And then he went QB.
Because then went early QB and tight end, Mahomes and Pitts. Okay, good. But here's the receivers. Neighbors as the 1, Hopkins as the 2, Jameson Williams at the 3, which means you have to start him, or Jacoby Myers, and then Cooks, Gabe, Demarcus Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're obviously betting on your running backs to carry you and Mahomes and Pitts, but they better because, I mean, man, there's not a wide receiver name here that I like. I guess Brandon Cooks is okay. I do like DeMarcus Robinson. Yeah,
I don't go.
I think
the last pick.
I think you either had to pass on Etienne or pass on Mahomes or both, to be honest, in this format.
Like, I think if this were non-PPR, I think this actually would be a good strategy, because you have guys like Neighbors and Jameson Williams, those kind of big play guys who could get you chunk yards and touchdowns and big plays, and could be more beneficial in a non-PPR league, and also flexing the RB would make more sense. So if this were a standard league, I think I would say this is a pretty good team. But in half PPR, it's going to be rough. All right. What about the coach, Dan Campbell? Jamar Chase, Kyron Williams, Pittman, Hurts, Monty, of course, got his boy. Rashee Rice is going where now these days? Mid-6th, I feel about right?
No.
Probably could have waited.
I only say no because Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy were both still on the board, and I'm not taking Rice over those guys when we know they're going to be there week 1, and we don't know when Rice is going to be there. So if Hollywood and Worthy were gone, I'd say, Rice in the 6-8 is fine. But with those guys still on the board, no, I'm not taking them over those guys personally.
Yeah, I think could have waited at least a round, or like you said, just Hollywood. Even Godwin I would take before him, but okay. Aaron Jones, Goddard to stack with Hurts, I guess, and then Dobbs, Spears, Josh Downs just to snipe me, and then Michael Wilson, Rashawn Johnson, Jalen Poole.
Man, this draft, this is like, if you had stopped at Jalen Hurts at the 4-8, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the best team in the league. I mean, Jamar Chase, Kyron Williams, Michael Pittman, Jalen Hurts is just phenomenal start to this draft. But then we're taking David Montgomery in the 5-5. I mean, really? David Montgomery, and then, like I said, Rashee Rice, Aaron Jones, like, just these guys are just like fine. Dallas Goedert, man, I just feel like this draft started so good and then just something happened.
Well, I think what happened is we just started reaching a little bit. For me, it's not who was drafted, it was when, because Monty, solid RB2, but could have got around later. Rice later. Jones, I guess, was fine. Goddard could have been like a late pick. Goddard makes sense. Put him with Hurts, solid late value, but could have drafted him probably around 10, 11. So solid, but could have been better. Is that the story for my team? Let's see. I got pretty happy again with Jefferson at the 6, Ayuk, then on the way back. And then I decided to go Pacheco, McBride, and AR. So then followed up with McLaurin, JSN, Watson, and a whole slew of running backs.
Yeah, I like what you did there because, I mean, you went wide receiver, then you went running back, tight end, QB, which can get kind of risky, right? Because you know, 3 wide receiver league, you ignored wide receiver for a bit, but then you got Terry, JSN, and Christian Watson. You just really, I guess, need, well, you might still have some issues at flex, but if one of those guys hit, you'll be okay. But then you got Brian Robinson, Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, Damian Pierce, Tank Bigsby, Marvin Mims. Interesting. Didn't know you were in on Marvin Mims. So, yeah, I mean, look, Jefferson, Ayuk, Pacheco, McBride, Anthony Richardson is another phenomenal start. Even Terry McLaurin, I think your first 6 picks were probably the best first 6 picks in the draft so far. Obviously, you're going to need one of those running backs to hit, and hopefully at least one more running back or one more wide receiver to flex. But yeah, I think those first 6 picks can carry you, honestly.
Yeah, I was a little worried going this way, and especially I was like, oh man, I should have waited on McBride. I could have got Kincaid. Maybe it tied in too early. But looking at it, I love my receivers. The way this turned out, McLaurin is the 3. Okay, JSN is my 4. Watson is my 5. I mean, I'm very happy with that. And then I'm okay mixing and matching RB2 because I wound up with mostly the guys I like. Not everyone, of course. So I actually almost went a completely different direction. Hertz was still on the board. Nobody was taking QB. So I almost started that QB run, but decided to go McBride. But yeah, I actually like this team a lot better than I thought I would. All right. What about Tony? We have some fans in here. Amal thinks that Tony's team was the best. And I do see a very strong receiver core here with Sun got Olave, Debo, and Higgins, and then got Kincaid and Murray. I mean, I think to me that's my favorite first 6 picks out there. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I still, I mean, it's close with yours. I mean, obviously his wide receivers are better than you, but you did get Pacheco, Richardson, Murray pretty even to me. McBride, Kincaid pretty even to me. So I think you guys are pretty even.
But let's see who wins the running back war. His running backs are Mostert, Brooks, Gus, and Vidal.
Yeah, again, I don't. I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't think you need. I mean, I know running backs. You're looking at the running backs. You're like, this isn't great, but I don't think you need when you have St. Brown, Olave, Debo, and Higgins. I don't think you need Lockett, Josh Palmer, and Malachi Corley. Like maybe just 1 or 2 of those guys, and just get, because like what happens if Mostert only plays a few games this year? What happens if, I mean, at least you got Gus and Vidal, because I don't think it's going to be Dobbins, so at least you're good there. But what happens if Jonathan Brooks gets off to a slow start? So, which he probably will. But overall, I think this team's really good, really strong. It's between you. It's funny. You guys are in the middle, and so far these are my 2 favorite teams, which is very rare. So, yeah, it's between you and Tony right now, I think, for my 2 favorite teams.
Yeah, I would just say the risk at running back. I mean, take your shots at RB2, but you, Tony, don't necessarily have an RB1 because we don't know if Brooks is going to be ready to start the season or how much action he's even going to see. And then Mostert, like, are we sure he's going to score 20 touchdowns? So the running backs are very risky here. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not going to score 20 touchdowns. But look, even if he scores 10 or 12, you're still playing him. But yeah, just a lot of risk there. I think, yeah, like you said, instead of Lockett, take Benson or Corum or whoever you like better. I think that would have helped. But this is also my favorite team, aside from mine. Amal, is it his favorite team? Brees, Drake London, Devontae Smith, Josh Allen, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Ingram, Ladd in the middle round, and then got Zeke, Chase Brown, Chuba, Tyrone Tracy, and Eli Mitchell.
I like it. I mean, you got Brees as the anchor, London, Smith, Kirk, Deontay, and Ladd McConkey. I mean, those are 5 potentially good fantasy wide receivers. You got Josh Allen. You got the most underrated tight end in fantasy football, Evan Ingram. The guy's just been like a stud for 2 years in a row, and it's like people don't want him. And then look, Zeke, Chase Brown, Chuba, Tracy, Mitchell, Irving. I mean, obviously you're going quantity over quality with your RB2. You just need those guys to be okay here. So yeah, I think it's 3 teams in a row. These are my 3 favorites. So 3 in a row, which is again really weird. We're talking about the middle picks having the best team so far.
Yeah, and so he's saying it's not his favorite, but yeah, that's exactly right. Taking QB early changes the way you go. And I'll say this though, Mal, I'll give you a compliment. It's it's not too hard to nail like the first 3-4 rounds, right? You pretty much know where guys are going to go, and you're going to get stud players. It's the middle rounds, and the late rounds are flyers. It's the middle rounds where really you can tell the savvy drafters. I like the middle portion of your draft maybe as much as anybody, because I like the Deontay pick there. It's round 6. You got Ingram, great value. Ladd is a good pick. And yeah, say you're about Zeke, at least you got a volume RB as your RB2, and then Chase Brown. I like that pick. So I really like how you played the middle of your draft. And then there is Slime Ball Season, who did, duly noted, did auto. I think this is not the first time. So let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Did auto for some of those picks. But let's break down the beginning. Puka, Devontae, DJ Moore, James Cook, Amari Cooper, Ramondre, Kittle, Jordan Love, and I don't think we'll talk about the rest.
Yeah, I think the rest was auto. Funny, Adams and DJ Moore, like, man, Adams at the 2-4 feels really early. I like Cook at the 4-4 feels great. I think Cooper's fine there. Stevenson, Kittle. I mean, I'm not even that high on Kittle, but Kittle at the 7-9 feels like good value to me. So, yeah, I think if we're only going to grade him up to Jordan Love, it's definitely a solid draft. I mean, Cook, Stevenson, Puka, Adams, Moore, Cooper, Love, and Kittle. Again, I don't. These wide receivers don't scream like huge upside to me, but it feels like a very solid team.
Yeah, I know you don't like that Devontae pick too much. If it was London or Ayuk or somebody, would you bump it up significantly?
I mean, I'd like it more, but I still feel like. I mean, I would definitely like it more, definitely, yeah. But I don't think that's the only thing. Like even DJ Moore, again, I talked about it. I have my reservations. I don't think DJ Moore is going to be a total bust, but I don't think we're going to see last year's DJ Moore. Amari Cooper, I mean, yeah, he's fine. He's fine there. I do like Cook, and I do like Stevenson because I think Stevenson's a value, but I don't know if we're going to see like the Stevenson we saw a couple of years ago. So it's fine. Yeah. This team's fine. At least if we're only grading up to Jordan Love, this team's fine.
Yeah, it's solid. A solid core.
Yeah.
Indeed, Jay is at the 10. He got AJB, Marvin Harrison, Diggs at the 3-10. Rashad White, Joe Burrow, Kamara, Pollard, Njoku, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Warren, Dalton Schultz, Judy, and Thielen. Your favorites.
Yeah, this is another team where, like, okay, AJ Brown, Harrison, okay, I mean, I don't love Diggs there, but if Diggs is your guy, is your wide receiver 3, fine, go for it. Rashad White, Joe Burrow. I probably would have preferred another wide receiver over Kamara or Pollard. I don't know if I want to be flexing Kamara or Pollard every week. And then Njoku, like, so Sutton's going to be your wide receiver 4 now. Jalen Warren, Schultz, Judy, Thielen. I mean, you might as well just push pass your draft.
Just mail it and call it a day. Yeah,
which maybe he did. Again, it's another solid team, just a solid team.
Yeah, I hate to say, but I think this might be my least favorite middle portion of the draft. I mean, I don't know when you consider the middle. I guess let's start at round 3 with Diggs. But besides Diggs, okay, but White was a good pick. To me, I'm not taking Burrow that early. And then Kamara or Pollard, maybe one, but not both. Njoku is fine, but I don't think he also had to be drafted that early when so many people already had tight ends. Sutton is fine. Warren's like, So, and it didn't need a second tight end. So, it's not my favorite. Keith went with Garrett Wilson, Saquon Barkley, Kupp, DK, and Jaden Reed. James Conner, Jake Ferguson, who I feel like is definitely one of his guys this year. And then him and Miguel. Miguel keeps drafting Jake Ferguson before me in underdog. Don't think I haven't noticed. Zach Moss, Jerome Ford, Curtis Samuel, Rashid Shaheed, Purdy, and then Jermaine Burton and Ray Davis.
Yeah, I love the Garrett Wilson Saquon start. Nothing wrong with that at all. Cup in the third feels way too early for me. DK is okay. We talked about Jaden Reed. Even Connor. I mean, I still think Connor will be the guy to start the season. Maybe I'm too low on Connor now. I don't know. I do like the Ferguson pick, the Moss pick. I mean, the Ford pick. I don't know if you need to take Ford that early, but I do like Ford. Yeah, the end of your draft is fine. I don't know. It's just those next 3 wide receivers. I mean, I know all the wide receivers are going quick, but just Cup, DK, Reed, they just feel okay to me, I guess.
I mean, I think as far as value goes, he pretty much took these guys where they're typically going. But I know that we typically aren't drafting Cup where he goes, DK where he goes, or Reed where he goes. So you have good players and you didn't reach, but it's just not personally the players like I would have picked at that spot. You know, I would have personally, I'd rather have Pickens than Jaden Reed at that spot or Keenan Allen. I would rather have, Zay Flowers than where you took Cooper Kupp. But hey, you never know. I'm kind of surprised you didn't take Ramondre instead of Connor. But solid, though. Solid squad. And then, last but never least, the double RB team. How did it turn out? You got Gibbs, JT, Tank, Zay, Keenan, Pickens, Worthy. You got Dak. Always a good value there. Eckler, Bowers, Ty Chandler, Kendry Miller, Gibson, and Mooney. I will say, I think, I said at the beginning, you don't have a number one receiver. I don't think any of these guys is going to vault into the top 10 or 12 necessarily, but obviously, you know that when you take your first 2 picks of running backs. So I think it's solid. I like all of those picks. I mean, you got to feel pretty good when Pickens is your 4th receiver and Worthy is your 5th receiver. I think you know that you did something right. Prescott, fine. Probably the only issue maybe is your bench for RB because Eckler is, Ty Chandler is, maybe partially usable. Kendry Miller, I like his upside, but yeah, that's the only thing is I don't love the backup running backs. But overall, this definitely is a strong contender.
Yeah, I mean, when you go RB, you're counting on those 2 running backs to stay healthy and carry you. Yeah, I mean, I think this isn't a team I normally love because, while I don't hate these wide receivers, I also don't love these wide receivers. But you know when you go RB, that's kind of what you're going to get. So I think the way it fell out, I think it probably fell about as well as I could have hoped. Right? I think for the wide receivers I ended up with, at least if nothing else, maybe not Keenan, maybe not Flowers, but Tank, Pickens, Worthy, they probably have a lot of weekly upside at least. Dak, Dak is the one I can't figure out. Why is Dak? The dude was dropping 30-point fantasy games almost every week last year, and what's gonna be different this year? What changed? That he's a guy I can't understand why he goes so late. I think if I could do one thing over, maybe I would have backed. I mean, I thought about drafting Luke Musgrave since I have Brock Bowers, and he's a rookie tight end, but I can always stream tight end if I need to. So, yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a team that I usually look at and say oh, I love this team, but for going RB, I think it turned out about as well as I could have hoped.
Yeah, I think that that's almost the more surprising thing to me is not that you went double RB because I mean that's where the value was there. That's a good strategy. It's just you took some players at receiver that you don't really love that much. It's I don't really want to take Tank Dell, and, especially in the 3rd round. You got Tank Dell, then Keenan Allen, and then Pickens. We had a little debate from Pickens. So, but never let it be said that Chris is biased against players or teams. It's always about value.
Yes.
All right. That's it. We're going to do this again next week, like we always do. We're also going to do one on Sunday for Underdog, and they always got new contests. So if you haven't signed up for some reason, Underdog, check that out. You can draft with us. Last Sunday, well, a couple days ago, we almost filled an entire draft with just Endgame viewers. So maybe we can do it for real this time. So check out the videos also coming out every single week. Got you covered. Just start bumping it up because before you know it, training camp's going to be here, and then the real drafting starts. So don't wait. Get on top of it right now. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.